Welcome and good afternoon. My name is Bill Walker. I direct the East Tennessee Human Resource Agency Workforce Services Division, and I direct the East Tennessee Local Workforce Board as well. I am the project director for the Healthy Careers and Healthy Families Partnership. I'm accompanied today by Mrs. Amy Edwards and Mr. Christian Cicotti, and they will introduce themselves.
Hi there, I'm Amy Edwards. I'm the Director of Families First for East Tennessee State University, and I cover the Northeast, East, and Southeast regions.
And I'm Christian Cicotti. I am the Workforce Development Specialist for Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee Blue Care Division in East Tennessee.
Thank you. Thank you. The East Tennessee Human Resource Agency will serve as the backbone organization, and the East Tennessee Human Resource Agency is a professional management system program in the human services sector that serves over 100,000 low-income individuals every year through its core programs of workforce development, transportation, housing, justice intervention, food security. It has been in operation for 45 years, and in the past 7 months, we have been able to bring on over 80 local, area, regional, and state partners to participate in the Healthy Careers and Families Partnership. 7 months ago, we began this venture, and 2 applications later, we're proud and happy to be here addressing you and hoping that you're listening attentively and going to ask us some very hard questions that will follow. In forming our plan, we used a number of different resources. We looked at historical service, historical budgets, and historical patterns of program development for working with low-income people across a number of providers, including ETHRA, local workforce boards, and other partners. We also used focus groups with TANF counselors, employers, and other partners to define our service delivery model. We had over 111 interviews face-to-face with low-income individuals to determine their aspirations, their needs, and their barriers. And lastly, we used demographic data provided by a number of state departments to determine the needs and wants of the communities. Our value statement, or our value proposition for the Healthy Careers and Families Partnership is that we are prepared to bring evidence-based case management, 2-gen model, employer engagement, and program monitoring to build a pipeline of employment in the healthcare system that's been ravaged by COVID-19. I want to talk about our service levels, but I want to come back and talk about that value statement right after that. We propose to serve in excess of 400 low-income individuals annually in education opportunities that might include adult basic education, short-term, certificated, post-secondary education at Tennessee Board of Regents, institutions at Goodwill and Coursera. And we also propose to put 500 people annually into work in the healthcare industry. I want to come back to that value statement. We talked about career management services. We talked about 2-gen. We talked about employer engagement and project monitoring. I want to speak briefly about case management. We propose to have 2 cohorts of case managers. One would be a career counseling cohort, and the other would be a family resiliency cohort. I'll speak briefly about the career counseling cohort. That group would be responsible for outreach, eligibility, bringing people online, providing them needs assessment, whether that be needs assessment for basic skills, academic skills, supportive services. They would be offering individual and group counseling and pre-vocational services. They would be offering supportive services, underwriting them, case notes for documentation, and finally follow through. These career specialists would be located within the American Job Centers, and they would be located so that in a large county, we might have a couple of case managers, but in the smaller counties, they may be divided between 2 counties. I mean, we don't want their case loads to be more than about 50 per person, so that they can be in that county working with the Economic and Community Development Office of the mayor, working with the chambers, working with the partners, and working with their partners in the American Job Center. They'll all be paid a living wage, and they'll all work from 8:30 to 5. I mentioned that the 2 gen services, and Amy will speak to the family resiliency counselor that we all also wish to employ.
Thanks, Bill. The family resiliency counselors would work in tandem with the career counselors. They too would be housed with the career counselors at the American Job Centers. That way they would have the full array of AJC services that are available, as well as a whole cadre of outside resources that Bill will talk about in a little bit. But the counselors would enact a holistic 2-generational approach, and they would touch each of the 4 components of 2-generational model. They would have the capacity to provide in-home counseling services, bonding experiences, and mediation services for the families if that were to be needed. And there's several other things that they would be able to do. They would be able to tackle adverse childhood experiences. They would be trained on trauma-informed care. And then the most important piece, I think, as far as the employment part goes for the counselors, would be that they would be working as a team to help the family when they get this new money and they get these new finances coming in. They need to learn how to budget them. And so the counselors would work very, very closely with the families to learn how to budget the new finances, how to have a bank account, those types of things. And so instead of just pushing the families through the system, the family counselor would actually walk with them through the services.
Employment engagement?
Thank you, Amy. So employment engagement, Blue Cross Blue Shield. Who doesn't know who Blue Cross Blue Shield is? We are, of course, statewide. We're in all 95 counties. We have multiple healthcare providers in all 95 counties. To make it simple, healthcare providers are employers. They need staff. They need a lot of staff. Healthcare has been, as Bill said, ravaged by not just COVID, but years of population growth and other economic factors. I am, as I stated in my intro, I'm a workforce development specialist. My sole purpose is essentially to liaison with our network of providers to help them with workforce issues. Our network, in our footprint stated in this grant proposal, we have 294 distinct, unique healthcare providers in that footprint, part of our statewide network of currently just under 700 providers. So we would be more than thrilled to help provide further access to our providers for another pipeline for staff. Our providers are very eager, they're very open, and they're very willing. They just need people coming into these roles that I think all of us can agree we desperately need as a state.
I also mentioned program monitoring, and we look forward to the department adopting a customer relationship management tool that will allow us to do data-driven decision-making from the case notes that are written into the system. And we've also written into the program 2 business service positions to work directly with the employers and as to liaise between the 2 counseling efforts and the employers. And further, we've written in the Knoxville Area Urban League to provide diversity, equity, and inclusion services and oversight and training in those areas. We align with 2 of the TANF program purpose statements and 3 of the department's universal outcomes, which are increasing economic status and security, employing parents as their children's first teacher, and decreasing psychological stress.
Okay, so this partnership would span 3 of the 9 workforce development areas and would cover 20 counties. So what we know is that 60% of these 20 counties are considered hardship or at risk, and 85% of these 20 counties are actually currently working at a labor force participation rate that's below the state average of 60.3. Now, what we also know is that between now and the next 4 years, there will be in excess of 3,800 healthcare jobs that are available to Tennesseans who have the post-secondary certification or an associate's degree. And even furthermore, 500 or more of these jobs every year will be in the East Tennessee region.
That's your slide.
Thank you. So as we can see here on this slide, the target population, obviously low-income families, those in economic distress. Of that, demographically breaking it down, about 1/4 are minorities. Of course, the other 3/4 would be Caucasian. What that shows is poverty is unbiased. It knows no boundaries. Nearly half are single-parent households, which an overlooked fact is it's not just a struggle on the parents, it's a struggle on the children in that household. And the average housing costs take up almost 25% of the per capita income for individuals in this coverage area. And that actually is all, the cost of housing that itself is actually a struggle that our providers also face as well. So they know this very well. Yet another component where there's an interlocking confluence of interest in this case.
Thank you, Christian. We've discussed in our written plan social marketing techniques, and I wanted to explain very, very briefly that we've taken the commercial side of marketing and looked at it through product, promotion, price, place, and people. So I encourage you to read our social marketing plan in our written document. In summation, our model is one of career counselors, family resiliency counselors, 2-gen model combined to promote job placement in the Blue Cross Blue Shield network and other healthcare providers. We have an MOU with the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta to provide the Benefit Cliffs Toolkit. And you've heard of the Benefit Cliffs Toolkit from other providers, but none of them, I believe, have talked about the Benefit Cliffs dashboard. And the dashboard is an accountability tool that determines the return on investment from people leaving the system and on Uncle Sam's dollars. And we will be trained by the Fed on that system. Again, a team approach with business service leads, counselors, wage supplementation. We will be providing wage supplementation to people who fall into the benefit cliffs. Our partners, our charter partners. The handout that I gave you includes these data right here. And on the other side of the handout is a chart with lines, and that is our career ladder approach. We took over 75 jobs and did a cross-section of job descriptions to determine how do we insert someone into a job, a career ladder approach. Down the left-hand side are those jobs that come into the system from the hospitality section, which has a lot of people out of work right now and not wanting to go back. So we're trying to commit those people to a healthcare line item. You can see the color coding on those. Color coding is at the top right corner, and it indicates those 2 top areas are the people that we will be working with who fall in the benefit cliffs and providing a wage supplementation. I'm willing to talk about that anytime. And on the flip side is our logic model with our outcomes listed. Our Our budget, I'll leave that up there. 90% of our money goes directly to participant services. We have a minimum participant cost rate of 90%. And our two gym models.
Bill, what will be different in the region post the adoption of this model? It's different than the current order.
It's our belief that the family resiliency counselors and the workforce counselors do not work as a team, and they're not liaised with employers. So we're proposing a staffing that combines those two efforts, those two staffs working together to address a common problem, and then having another team of 3 business service leads presenting that client to the counselor, to the employer. Additionally, this career ladder approach, we've put a lot of research into these 75 occupations, and we know how, and you know, if someone, Commissioner, wished, we will have a work first initiative. If someone wishes to go to school, that's fine, but we're going to push them toward work. And if they go to work, we're going to reserve some money for them to go to school and increase their ability to pass through this career ladder. That's another alternative. So work first, differentiated staffing. Either of you studied the plan?
Well, as Bill said, the combination of various entities we have here doesn't exist. I know I can speak personally in my own Blue Cross efforts for the last 2 years. It has been a struggle in some respects to bring parties together. Where what I have found is that there's so many people in this state pulling in the same direction, but not pulling together. And this presents an opportunity for so many entities to pull together, to make an effort. Many hands make light work. Everybody knows that saying. I think we can all agree, many hands do make light work. I would much rather paint my house with 10 people than by myself.
And lastly, Commissioner, Amy briefly mentioned it, but we're setting up our clients to be informed consumers. We are not going, our career specialists are not going to dictate what people do. They're going to set them up to make informed choices, and they can jump on your trampoline all day.
And Bill, are any of the resources, assets, or tools that have come together to make this model, did you have to go and build or buy them, or were they there someplace?
I'm hard of hearing, Commissioner.
I'm sorry.
Behind me was too much distraction. You asked about tools?
Yeah, yes. Are any of the tools, resources, or assets that you used to build this model, okay, were they already available to you in the community, or did you have to go out and, find them, build them, buy them?
No, we did not have to go find them, build them, buy them, but we will have to go find people to do it. That's an interesting question that you asked, because originally I had written into our proposal that we wanted to buy Salesforce for a better data collection. And we also wanted to work with Unitas, who would provide us with referrals. And I read the application again, and it said, no, don't put anything in there for that. But I applaud you for, I believe, you're going to provide us with a universal data collection tool that we can all know what our outcomes are.
Yeah, and our objective there, Bill, is that one of the ways that this system is extremely inefficient is that because we exist in silos, we require all the silos to build their own ecosystem. Mm-hmm. And so tons of resources go into shared resources. And so we thought that we can absorb some shared costs so that the lion's share of your funding can go towards the effort and not having to recreate the wheel.
And that's why I say 90% of your money is going to direct participant services. Did you want to say anything? Okay.
As a person whose background is in career technical education, this chart just makes me really happy. So we all know career pathways need on-ramps, off-ramps. I love the going from the hospitality sector cluster to healthcare cluster and kind of that movement. I'm curious if you can just talk more about the career counseling part and how you plan to help people kind of figure out which of these positions and paths is right.
As part of the career counselor responsibilities, I mentioned needs assessment. They will be doing career assessment, aptitude assessment, interest assessment, and cognitive ability, which is the number one determination of can you succeed in a program of instruction. So there's a great deal of instruction, assessment that goes on to inform, counsel somebody that, yes, you can be an LPN, or no, you need to start as an ambulance driver. You're not going to make it as an LPN, but you can get to the LPN through this model. Does that answer your question? Okay.
And if I could just add to that, the family resiliency counselors, I think will play a part in that as well, because it's very important that once you do that assessment and you use those tools, that a family resiliency plan be put into place. And so that would include a timeline, something that families really, it's really beneficial to them to actually see on paper what their plan is and what their goals are, and then they can work from that.
Are you really focused on getting people for your pilot into healthcare jobs, or are you just using that as an example of a career path that somebody might take from the hospitality industry elsewhere?
Good question. We started out thinking as a collaborative that we would be a works program, and we decided there's works programs everywhere. Let's concentrate on the problem that healthcare is having right now in this area. Let's focus our training partners on healthcare and build capacity through our training partners and our needs. And we got Blue Cross Blue Shield as a charter member, and we hope to have additional partners as well. Thank you. Mr. Hall?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. I'll expand on that a little bit more. We've heard several proposals already, and each of those proposals have a behavioral health component to it. I guess I would encourage, beyond just the physical health care, that also include behavioral health care and getting folks qualified, because we're going to have great needs for that across the board as we're hearing about all the behavioral health needs.
Well, our health care focus is on behavioral, dental, physical, medical, psychological. So we're not just working with a doctor's office. We're working, with a family practitioner.
And what I'd like to add there too is the diversity of our providers. I said there's 294 providers in this footprint area. Those providers are as unique as the individuals that work for them. Their purpose is to meet the needs of individuals that receive services through TennCare programs, and the key word there is individuals. There are providers who specialize in family model practices, who specialize in community living supports. There are providers who specialize in certain types of in-home assistive care. There's providers that run the gamut. And so far as, going back to the career ladder pathways here, there's providers who need these medical roles. They need LPNs, they need RNs, they need leadership, they need support staff. There's so many roles that they need. I happened to just meet with 2 providers last week here in the East. One needs 130 just support staff, 180 total staff to meet their current needs, not the growing needs. The other needs over 300 support staff to meet their current needs. That's 2 of my 294 providers.
Thanks for the clarity.
really am moved by the career pathways model in that what it's my hope is that DHS writ large can be the catalyst for developing many different career ladders. Because at the end of the day, we believe that everybody who can work should work, okay? But we also want people to work in jobs and careers that carry with them a life-sustaining wage. And so where we can identify the careers that have those jobs that that have the life-sustaining wage, then we're not asking people to simply take a job that pays, $9 an hour. We are trying to make work pay, and this career pathways model helps us do it.
Yes, sir, and we'd be happy to work with you. As I told you, we took 75 different jobs in the healthcare career and cross-referenced them to see the applicability of skills across from right to left. And we'd be happy to do that with any of the sector strategies that the state wishes to talk about. Thank you for your time.